like that stuff is moving with him. It's like,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
you know,
Well, maybe that's his crew. Maybe part of their
he's
job
got a
description is...
team of movers.
Yeah, their
And
prior
interior
Secret
decorators
Service.
that pimp out tiny
Exactly.
apartments
Yep.
in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
A
Special
different
forces.
one every day.
Interior decorating logistics. Yeah. Hey, El Toddo.
What's going on?
We got a podcast, The Buff and the Blazer. If I was a listener, where would I go to find more?
You can check us out on our website, thebuffandtheblazer.com. Drew over there writes a article that goes along with every single episode.
You can find all kinds of little extras on the articles, and you can listen to the podcast right there. Also, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, we're on Twitter at Buff and Blazer. Follow us there.
Get those clicks, people.
The Buff and the Blazer.
Welcome to the Buff and the Blazer, episode 34. I'm Drew, and as always, I'm here with my good buddy, Mr. El Toddo.
What's going on, dude?
What's going on, man?
It's hot.
It's really hot. It's really hot and humid.
Yeah.
Not a good combo.
And fire season is in full swing, so it's smoky, humid, and hot. Lovely.
Yeah, you gotta love California, where everything's on fire and the earth shakes your brain.
It's been shaking a lot.
It has.
Yeah.
There might be something to that big one.
Yeah, the little action that happened down in Imperial the other day, like, broke records for the amount of quakes that occur in one spot that are over a certain scale or whatever.
Yeah.
A little farther down the San Andreas than we are.
Yeah. Well, let's get away from the doom and gloom. Let's talk about our quarantine viewing. Our quarantine viewing of course, The Tax Collector. The Tax Collector we're discussing today, directed by David Ayer and starring, quote-unquote, Shia LaBeouf.
He is not starring in it.
He's not. It's a bit of a misdirect
Of the old,
there.
yeah, a bit of the old switcheroo
Yeah.
on us with the trailer.
A bit of a marketing gimmick. Starring Bobby Soto, let's say that.
Yes, he is
Give
the
credit where
star of
credit's
the
due.
movie.
He's the star. But I understand why they wanted to stick Shia's lovely face all over this poster.
Gotta get those eyeballs, man.
For sure. And the tats.
Yeah.
And the tattoos. So yeah, this was streaming premiere, as films are these days. And it made a shit ton of money. It made and they called it $315,000 at the box, or $1 million, sorry, $315 million.
Really?
At the quote-unquote box office.
Well, they got 15 of my dollars. So you know how I've been, every time we review a movie, I've been saying I rented it and I'm an idiot, I should have bought it because
Yeah.
it wasn't that much more. Well, here's a perfect example where I listened to myself and it bit me in the ass because I should have rented this movie and instead I bought it. So I paid $10 more than the rental price. So you got me.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I take that back. That was $317K.
Oh.
Yeah, 317 million, that's like breaking records. But no, for streaming though, 317K, that's probably the equivalent to a good close to $100 million opening at the box office.
What?
Maybe.
Really?
Yeah. For streaming, I would think.
Those numbers just don't seem to line up with me.
But anyway, so apparently it's one of the biggest draws for streaming. Apparently, the streaming world is very different. And yeah, they took your money and my money.
Well, did you just rent it?
I rented it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rented it, and I'm not too upset that it went away out of my library.
So now, on my Voodoo
Spoilers.
account, on my Voodoo account, I have Jojo Rabbit and The Tax Collector. Those are the two movies that I've actually purchased.
Oh man, the
out
best.
of 34 episodes.
Yeah,
but not all of them I've had to watch on Voodoo.
those movies don't belong on the same digital shelf. They just don't.
They're like a back a back room for your library.
Yeah, well, at least on iTunes, you can actually go in there and hide films that you've purchased if you want.
So you don't feel the guilt
Yeah.
of your bad purchase.
Right, so all the like unrated softcore films that you have and you want to hide away, you just go in there and click hide on iTunes. But at any rate, all right, so a bit of a spoil that I threw out there. But anyways, you and I both saw it, and let's start with you. I like to get you to kick things off here. What did you think of Mr. Ayers, the Tax Collector, written and directed by him?
Okay, so I was fairly excited about this movie because this is the third Shia movie we've done this year, and he was absolutely fantastic in the first two.
We're talking Peanut Butter Falcon and Honey Boy.
Yeah. So I saw the trailer. Actually, my lady sent it to me while I was working, and I watched it in the middle of nowhere on my phone, and I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be awesome, like super raunchy, raw, gangster LaBouffe. And it really let me down on that front. There were some major things with the movie that I did not like in terms of how it was constructed and some of the unoriginality of it. But I will say, I thought visually it was quite pleasing.
Yeah.
There were some scenes that I really liked, and it just kind of it fits right into that gangster, middle of the road gangster movie, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a letdown from what I was expecting.
Okay, I get you. I want to ask you a little bit about that before I go into my kind of overall view, but like, did it let you down because there wasn't enough of the gritty, like hardcore gangster stuff going on, or because
so
the quality of what we got?
Okay, so the actual action that's in the movie I enjoyed a lot. However, there's not that much. And there was just way too much of like the gangster lifestyle, I guess. And
like too much chest puffing?
Yeah, and the build up.
Okay.
There's just so much build up to everything, and everything was like so over the top.
Yeah.
From the gangster standpoint, that it came across as like just really on the nose. Okay, I'll put it this way. If it's going to be that gangster, the whole movie should be like ridiculously violent.
Yeah.
Like a John Wick level violence.
Okay.
But there's not a ton. Like it's fairly violent, but there's not a ton. There's way more scenes of just really dramatic, super hyper dramatic acting and talking than there is straight violence. In a movie where the trailer paints Creeper, Shia LaBeouf's character, as like this
great
total epic hitman / muscle.
Yeah.
And you don't really get a lot of that. Like basically every line that Shia has in the movie is in the trailer. So it really let me down on that aspect. I was expecting a lot more action from Shia, like choreographed fighting action.
Yeah.
And I didn't get any of that.
Like more in the John Wick style?
That's what I expected. Yeah, I expected there to be some really high-level hand-to-hand, close quarters gunfighting with his character. Because like he's portrayed as this like complete psychopath, ultimate muscle hitman,
Yeah.
And like you get so blue balls on that aspect of it that it really let me down on that side. But the action that is in there, I did like.
Okay. That's interesting. So I think I kind of had a bit of an opposite take in terms of all of that, because I've seen a few of David Ayer's films as a director, and I've watched a few of the films he's written. And from like the films I've seen Fury, I've seen Suicide Squad, I've seen, what else? Sabotage. And then some of the films he's done, like he wrote Training Day. He wrote The Fast
Oh,
and
that's a
Furious.
great movie.
Yeah. So the guy can write.
I just thought of a funny little parallel with Training Day in this movie.
Yeah.
Those
Can
long, dramatic talking scenes carry a lot more weight when one of the people in the scene is Denzel Washington.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'll watch 2 hours of Denzel in a room talking to me. I don't know if I can handle Shia in a room talking to me for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's too intense, right?
Unless he, like, slow cries and I see the tear manifest over 2 hours, then maybe I'd be down for that. But, so David Ayer, like, he definitely has a style. He's very much this sort of, like, he has this macho thing about him where, like, all his characters he writes, they're like these hard guys and they're, like, rough around the edges. And I think the one film of his that I really kind of, I wouldn't say so much that I enjoyed it, but I thought it was well made was Fury. And it's about a tank crew in World War II.
Yeah, I need to see that movie.
With Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And Shia was in that film, too.
Yeah.
But even in that film, he's like, these guys are real hardened. They're kind of like gangster in their own way. And they're just really, really hard and really violent, obviously. So I was expecting a lot of the same in this one. I talked to a buddy about this because he did Suicide Squad, which is a DC film. And with like that universe, there's this whole theme of like they're trying to do a heavy metal kind of take on the superheroes where they're all like badass and gritty and dark, and like Superman has these mental issues and he's like doesn't smile. And he definitely suited that style of filmmaking with Suicide Squad. So I totally expected that vibe from this film, and it's exactly what I got. It's a bunch of people going out, puffing their chests out, being hard, and the violence that we did get was like pretty violent and hardcore for the amount that we got. And it's really kind of a weird mixture of like he's trying to get some substance and character here, but it just doesn't pay off for me. It never does in his films.
Okay.
Like you said, minus like Training Day, which he wrote, but I'm talking about the films he directs. Like he's trying to hit a beat of like getting deep with character and trying to make a film about family and about like being loyal to your friends, and it just kind of isn't there for me. There's no substance to it. It's all kind of like getting into the gangster scene in LA, which it, like frankly is kind of depressing right now. Like this isn't a film that I kind of gravitate towards anyway. But having said that, there was kind of this odd quality of the film where I just couldn't stop watching it. Like I was going to sit down and be like, I'll do an hour and then I'll finish it tomorrow. And I ended up just sitting through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like oddly captivating in that sense. But other than that, there were a few beats in the story that just were kind of thin to me. And when you reach the point at the end of the story, with what they imply with the main character, I was like, that is all very circular.
I mean, I paused the movie at about 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I know exactly everything that's going to happen from here on out, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just very, like you said, circular and just very predictable. And,
yeah.
And like so on the nose and so over the top. But so basically the movie is about two gangster dudes that collect their dues from all the other gangbangers.
Yeah, they owe like a tax
for some level of like Mexican mafia cartel action, right?
Yeah.
And then a new guy comes into the mix and basically shit goes crazy. That's the general premise of the movie.
Yeah, like the power structure kind of gets out of whack.
And just by saying that couple of sentences, you know what the movie is.
Yeah.
So that's nothing really caught me for a loop besides, you know, a bit of a letdown.
Yeah. And like just to get it out of the way, we're gonna try as really, really hard to avoid spoilers for this film.
Yeah,
in case
it's
you want to
new,
watch it.
and if you want to watch it, so yeah, we'll hold back.
As we talk about, I do want to try and like talk about the plot structure of this movie in vague terms because it really threw me off at the end where he ends up. basically, I guess the best way to put it, like I said, is the main character, David, who played by Bobby Soto. The entirety of the film, I think, is spent giving this guy an arc. And right at the climax of the film, when all the shit hits the fan, he like reaches a place, and you feel like he's about to hit this beat where, all right, he's gonna. His story is resolved. He's made up his mind. He's gonna do something and make a decision at the end of the film. But then there's a moment that happens between him and another character that just totally creates this circle back to where he started. And I'm like, you spent an hour and a half giving this guy somewhat of an arc, and he gets to the end of the story, and then you bring him right back to where he started. It's like, to me, that was just a complete waste of a story. I just didn't... By that point, I was like, dude, what was the point of that? An hour and a half. Like, this guy was about to get interesting, and then you totally bring him back to what he was, like this generic stock character in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, is that
what you imply?
Is that the overall message, that is the tragedy of gang culture?
I think so.
You know?
I think so, but I see, to me anyway, and I'm like total armchair director here, it would have been a lot more interesting if you would have stuck a beat. Because then that has implications, like, if you wanted to, that's the whole sequel.
Mm.
But I guess you could, where they ended it, you could delve into sequel territory, but please don't create a sequel to this film. It's not necessary.
Yeah, if you want to, go for it. But
do you kind of understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm coming at in terms of the arcs are so predictable.
Yeah.
Of every single character, essentially.
Yeah.
It really, you just know where it's going the whole time. And even like David, the main character, his archetype is so on the nose too. Like the powerful, almost like a prince type figure.
Yeah.
That is kind of portrayed as super ruthless but has a heart. You know, that's like so freaking like right in the middle of the bullseye for
this genre anyway.
Yeah, for like the hero.
Yeah.
And I was hoping to get a little more shakeup from those classic hero stories.
Yeah.
Because everything, I don't know. It's just too lined up, you know.
I get you. Well, the other thing too is, like you said, I think you go into the film with an expectation, especially with how they market it. Like, look at the poster for this film, right? You have LaBeouf on it with Bobby Soto, and they're both holding like these submachine guns.
Yeah.
I don't think once either of these fools has a submachine gun.
I think they call them choppers in the movie, right?
Yeah.
That's what they call it. I think Shia's character says at one point that he has one on him, like under his really tailored suit somewhere.
Yeah.
But
he does rock a good suit in this movie.
Yeah. He's great in this movie.
I think most of the actors in it are.
Yeah, and he's like so fucking intense.
Yeah.
And his character really doesn't get paid off. It's like a super blue balls type of character. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's like the main twist of the movie, right?
Yeah. I will say, too, there's a scene in the beginning where you're kind of introduced to Shia's character, and he walks in, and I guess they're working out some kind of handoff / delivery with this person, him and David, and the tension of that scene and kind of the suspense and like the sense of danger that could happen at that moment. Those were really well done. Like I thought those scenes had some kind of weight to them in terms of giving you a sense of like dread and the danger that could go down, you know, if you don't do what you're expected to do with the tax.
Yeah, they're extremely intimidating.
Very intimidating.
And, like,
and Shia played that off beautifully. Like, he's great for that. And Soto, too.
And what it does to your imagination on where it's going to get to from a violence and an action scene standpoint.
Yeah.
Doesn't pay that off.
But like you said, it's kind of a balloon that gets inflated and then it just deflates because it goes
right.
nowhere.
It doesn't pop. It just
exactly. Right.
That's a great analogy, man.
Yeah. So I totally understand what you're saying there. As it expands and you feel that tension and that intimidation factor, it's great, but it just doesn't really, like you said, it doesn't really boil over into anything real meaningful, I guess, at the end. You just get the sense that I guess these guys are intimidating because they look really mean and talk really, really mean.
And they kind of play on that, right? They play the joke on that a bit.
Yeah.
Where Shia asks Bobby Soto's character, like, how many times have you given that speech or something?
Right.
And they
that is something.
So those are some of the nicest scenes in the movie when they're in the car together.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. My favorite scenes in the whole film are anytime David and Creeper are in the car together.
Mm.
And what I do like is they acknowledge the fact that they're putting on an act. Like they're putting on an act to intimidate people because they're total just like homies in the car talking to each other, like talking about banging whoever they're going to bang or whatever. They let you in on the joke that it's not really a joke, but they let you in on the fact that they are kind of playing up this persona of being these badass.
But Shia's character, Creeper, is like, he really is that crazy. Right? Because they have some cool flashbacks and stuff that really, tease you a little bit on the level of violence that he is capable of.
Yeah, and he has the ears and the tats to prove it.
Yeah, those cauliflower ears are wicked.
For sure.
I don't know if he got those for real, but he got the tattoos for real, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he wanted the ears for real, too.
Well, that shit don't go away, man.
Well, I mean, he could just plastic surgery that stuff.
I mean, I got a good buddy who's a jiu-jitsu guy, and his ears are mangled, and it doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, it's
I'll give him this, man. He is the most committed dude out there.
Well, okay, so you want to hear a connection for me? I kind of place Shia in this on this level. So I know you're not the biggest Tom Cruise fan.
No. Not at all.
But for me, like, all right, hear me out here. Hear me out. All right, let's just forget the whole Scientology thing.
No, not even on that
I
end.
love Katie Holmes. Okay,
the movies, man.
Yeah. All right, I get it.
We're
doing Top Gun. As soon as that movie comes out, we're doing Top Gun.
Of course. Tom Cruise's favorite movie of mine is Collateral with Jamie Foxx.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
But what I was saying, Shia LaBeouf and Tom Cruise, what I really appreciate about Tom Cruise is when I go to the movies and I pay my $15 for a ticket or whatever, every time I come out of a Tom Cruise movie, I feel like I got my money's worth. And what I mean is this dude is literally willing to put his life on the line to entertain me.
Okay.
If you know what I mean, like when I go and watch, especially the most recent like Mission Impossible films, the last 4, all of them really, but specifically like the last 3 or 4. And you hear this guy in the behind the scenes and all the planning and prep he does in the stunt work. He's all about like, and he says it all the time, like he wants to give the audience an experience. And I always feel like I get my money's worth every time I watch one of his films. And I put Shia on that level now. Like you said, anytime he goes into a role, he's investing everything he has.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. And I might not like all of his films, but anytime you go in to watch a film with Shia LaBeouf in it, you know that you're going to get someone who's bought into the role and is going to take the role seriously with whatever it is. And so in that sense, I put him on that same level of Tom Cruise where I feel like I'm getting what I paid for in terms of a performance.
That's interesting. I have like a different feeling of Shia. Like he's going to be like our generation's Tom Hanks, maybe, but like way rougher around the edges. I mean, in terms of like prolific.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I feel like he's going to be in a movie every fucking year for the rest of the next 3 decades or something. And most of them are going to be really damn good.
Yeah.
That's kind of and not like a comp one-on-one personality or look-wise at all. Just
You're talking
in
about
terms
like
of,
the quality of the performance.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like a quality, awesome actor that's around for decades, and most of the movies he's in are great.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like Kevin Costner maybe too, but he's kind of like transitioned into awesome TV, right? But
I love Kevin Costner.
yeah, that's like the other kind of comp, like just around for decades, and most of the movies they're in are pretty badass.
Yeah.
I love me some '90s Costner, dude. Some of my favorite movies
Oh man.
ever I had on.
Don't get me started. I don't care what anyone says about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, dude, I love that movie.
That is
absolutely
the best.
love that movie.
That movie came out ahead of its time. It was like gritty and realistic take on the Robin Hood story.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if he speaks like an American in the role. Like, it's just so good.
My friend was watching that movie recently, and I was at his house. This not recently. I say recently, but I haven't seen the guy in like 4 months. But like sometime before the quarantine, I was at a buddy's house, and he had that movie on, and I sat down and watched like 40 minutes of it, and then I was like, "Fuck, I gotta leave," you know, because I had to go do something. But I had that movie on VHS, and I absolutely love it to this day.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, that's like kind of
think.
my comp. You know, something in those lines.
Yeah.
And maybe even Harrison Ford for some type of comp, but I kind of held those other guys. I know you're a Star Wars fan, but I don't know, Harrison. Yeah, that's another good comp, you know.
Yeah.
But the commitment level is like what? Daniel Day-Lewis level?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, is he that committed?
I'm not saying
it seems like it.
He's on that level of acting quality, because Daniel Day-Lewis is on a level of his own. But in terms of the dedication, yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis level dedication, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's so blue balls, man. Bring it on back now to this movie.
Yeah,
really blue balls. Shia's character is like way more intriguing than what you get.
Yeah.
And maybe I had my hopes up really bad, but that's their fault for the trailer the way it is.
Yeah.
And the teasing of the really heavy violence flashbacks that you get of him in the movie.
Yeah. No. You're right. So, all right, let's get off the Shia LaBeouf sandwich now. And because there are a lot of actors in this movie, and there are a lot of Latino actors and Latina actresses.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So what did you think of Bobby Soto?
I actually bought it completely.
Yeah.
And I was totally kind of invested. I feel like there was a bit of too much of an ask from an emotional standpoint.
Yeah.
In terms of the length of some of the really emotional scenes.
Sure.
But I did enjoy it, and I was invested. Like I felt like that shit was really going on to him.
Yeah.
And it's a tragic hero story, man, and he plays it correctly.
Yeah, he does. I'm not familiar with some of his work.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen him before.
I mean, he's been in a bunch of like TV series and films. Yeah, so he's done a lot of TV and some short films, but I thought, yeah, in the role, he's a very believable character. You buy him in the role. And like you said, that they play that archetype of the tragic hero, kind of this prodigal son / prince theme going on, where he's the family man trying to build something.
It's Achilles, dude.
Yeah, for sure. One of the actresses I really enjoyed in this film was Cynthia Carmona, who plays his wife Alexis. Yeah, I think she brought kind of this down to earth, realistic, or humanistic side of the business, and she heightened the stakes of how dangerous his work is.
Yeah, on an emotional level, it comes across on her face the entire time that she is aware of all of the implications of their activity. You know?
Right. Which is really ironic.
Yeah, there's a few scenes like when they're driving in the car
Yeah.
initially, when shit kind of hits the fan,
Mm-hmm.
and her acting in that scene is insane. Like, you absolutely feel like, and like when the cops blow him up behind there,
Yeah.
when the cops light him up,
Mm-hmm.
like the angst that she's feeling, you can like feel that it's coming through the screen.
Yeah, for sure. She does a great job. And there's a bunch of other really good performances too. George Lopez, like, he
Yeah.
does a good job of playing the hardened, wise uncle character.
Yeah, he's it's a different light than normally
Yeah.
what you see him in, and it's still very believable.
And he pulls it off. There's something really intimidating about him on
Yeah.
screen when he flips that switch.
I loved in the movie how they switch between Spanish and English when they're getting real serious. When they're getting real serious,
Yeah.
they're talking Spanish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I loved how there was just like this flow back and forth between both languages.
Which
And-
is like very realistic because
Yeah.
I have, a bunch of Latino friends that do that all the time.
Yeah, all of the characters came across as extremely believable in their character. Like George Lopez, he's a comedian, he's a hilarious dude, and he's like pretty scary in this movie.
Yeah.
And you totally believe it with like you're throwing out you forget quickly that he's a comedian, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I love how matter of fact all the speech is between him and David.
Yeah.
Like it's
Uh-huh.
so just like matter of fact.
Right.
And there's like so many like 3-word metaphors between in the dialogue between them
Yeah.
when they're having like legit gangster talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked a lot of that in the movie actually.
It's kind of bizarre how it's like he flips the switch and he's just this totally other character, which is the idea, right?
Yeah.
But you don't expect it, like knowing his background. And then another one of my favorite characters in this film is Cheyenne Ray Hernandez. She plays Gata,
Gata.
and she is a badass in this movie.
Yeah, she qualifies for hot chick kicking ass, so boom.
Yeah,
That's our August hot chick kicking ass. Because
Yeah.
she's a total badass in this movie. She's probably my favorite character, to be honest.
To me, she was like one of the most intimidating characters in the whole film.
Yeah.
Like even more so than Shia.
Yeah, and the main villain, Conejo,
Yeah,
played by Jose Conejo Martin, he's like almost like comic book level villain, right?
yeah. He's like super intimidating too. He's a rapper, right?
I don't know. He is fucking intimidating, though.
Yeah, he's a rap artist. Yeah, he is. I mean, I believed the kind of character he played.
What's up? I don't think this spoils too much, but like, what's up with the chicken sacrifice?
Yeah, that was
A bit
really
strange.
That was a weird like side plot thing.
It's like a callback to pre-Christianity
I guess.
Central American traditions because they show like the Aztec or Mayan kind of symbolism.
That's what
like-
I got.
Yeah, it was a bit weird.
But again, you didn't really need. You could have cut that out. That wasn't really needed. It was almost meant to like increase his intimidation factor.
But it made it kind of cheesy.
Yeah. It was a little over the top.
Yeah. And
Um,
there's like a level of coordination that I always have a hard time buying in gangster movies.
What do you mean?
Like just like the almost like military precision of how every logistic is lined up in every
Oh.
direction.
Yeah.
It's just like a little too clean. You know? It's like they at some point in the movie they're like, Conejo, he stays in a different place and he's always on the move so nobody's where he's at and everywhere he goes is like decked out with all of his tapestries and candles.
Yeah.
It's like you got to have a whole team of people just to move his furniture around if he stays at a different apartment every night. And every single one of them has like, red velvet walls and that shit just seemed like
Well, no, I totally get what you're saying.
makes
and
him like a comic book like villain,
Yeah, no, and I totally understand what you're saying. But doesn't David's like cohort of people, don't they tell him that Conejo has a like special forces background? Isn't that in the film? Like, isn't he like prior, like either, I don't know, isn't he like prior special forces down in like Mexico or something?
I think a lot of they say his right hand man. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but still, like, okay, I buy the military and like the armed organization.
I'm not trying to counter what you were saying.
No.
I agree.
No, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I actually buy the violence coordination.
Okay, yeah.
And like the armed guards and the watchers,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing family members and house. I buy all that. What I don't buy is his apartments.
Oh, okay.
All the different apartments that they show him in are like these decked out, and if like the dude's moving every night, he certainly doesn't have enough time in a day to, take down all of his things and move all of his giant medieval candle holders, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then how about the last apartment he's in? It's like complete opposite.
But before
You know what I'm saying?
No. This is why I bring that up, because before shit kind of hits the fan and they're in that kind of trashy apartment, it is all decked out in all the shit I'm talking about. Like, that stuff is moving with him. It's like,
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
you know?
Well, maybe that's his crew. Maybe part of their
He's
job
got a
description
team of movers.
Yeah, they're
and
prior
interior
Secret
decorators
Service.
that pimp out tiny
Exactly.
apartments
Yep.
in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
A
Special
different
forces.
one every day.
Interior
Interior.
decorating logistics. Yeah. That's why he's the badass. That's why he's taken over, because he has the resources like that.
Well, and okay, here's a good thing to bring up while we're talking about Conejo. He's badass in the movie. Like, just him individually, besides like his aura,
Yeah.
he's pretty fucking scary. But they never really pay off the upper end of the gangster battles, the stuff that's happening above their heads, above Conejo and David's heads.
Yeah.
Like, you know what's going on above David's head, but you never really get a bite of the crime apple that's going on above Conejo.
Yeah.
And I was hoping for that.
I see.
So, like I told you earlier, I paused the movie at 45 minutes, and I paused the movie because I wanted it to go somewhere beyond where it went.
Yeah.
And then when I hit play again, I knew it wasn't going to get there.
I get you.
Because I was thinking of like, okay, like start to play out Wizard and who's ever above Conejo,
Right.
Wizard played by Jimmy Smits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Smits.
He's the mysterious wizard, right? The wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah, that's Princess Leia's dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Which number is that in?
Her adoptive dad.
Which number is that in? 3, 4?
He was in 3, and he was in Rogue One.
Is that 7?
That's like 3.5.
Oh.
Not officially, but 3.5 where it takes place in the timeline.
But you
get
you get what I'm saying about the upper end, like the next level of the gangster movie that you kind of want.
Yeah. I'm still stuck on Conejo's interior decorators, dude. That's fucking fascinating. Like, could you imagine, like, on HGTV or something, like, Pimp My Apartment? And these dudes are just following, like, drug lords.
Oh, my God.
And moving their shit
from,
from,
like... hilarious skit right there.
From apartment to apartment, and they're just like, homie, like, this color scheme's all wrong. We need more magenta.
Gangster.
Dude.
Gangster interior decorating on
HGTV.
On HG. That's hilarious.
HG.
SNL's coming back in a couple of weeks. You guys hear us? That's a hilarious skit.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I really, that did not stick out to me, but you're so right. It's like he has a traveling decorating.
Because I think they show him in, 3 different apartments?
Yeah, because, when they first introduce him, he's kind of he's in, a house or some kind of hacienda or this mansion, right?
No, they're at like Homeboys Club.
Or is that the second place?
That's like Homeboys Club. Yeah,
That's right.
And then they're in like somewhere badass.
Yeah.
And then they're in like this fucking S&M dungeon. And then they're in, you know.
BDSM?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that did not even jump out at me, but it's so true.
I mean, the man has like 17 wall tapestries.
Yeah.
That travel with him.
That's amazing. Fascinating.
See, these are the things stoners see in movies.
This is why we do this. This is why we have this show. Just to see a whole bunch of stuff.
What other characters stuck out to you? There's like a whole pretty strong lineup of slightly supporting characters that all fit in really well.
It was really cool to see how many just Latina actors that were on screen. You don't see that quite often.
Yeah.
Although there was a critique about that in one of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, which, I mean, is kind of true, but he's saying basically every Latino in this movie is portrayed as a gangster.
Perpetuating stereotypes, huh?
Yeah, you can't argue against that. But that's, I mean, having said
that...
that...
I don't know. How much do you think people in, like, the gang culture feel that way? Or they
I don't
probably
know.
like it a lot more? I have no fucking idea.
I have no clue either. I'm so outside. I'm
Yeah,
like the
dude.
less gangsta person you're ever going to meet.
Yeah, the most
It's,
dangerous things that live near me aren't gangsters. They're bears and mountain lions. So I'm not anywhere near that world.
The most dangerous people that live near me are country folk. That's all I'll say.
All right.
That's pretty scary. I pretty much talked about my favorite performances in the movie, but everyone was really good to me. I think that's probably one of the best aspects of this film are kind of the performances. Even though I think story is missing, which is probably the most important, but the performances make it watchable and make it, I think, interesting for what it is, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny you say story missing. I don't think it's missing. I think it's just like way too much there.
You know what? Yeah, that I need to reword that. The story, the concept of the story I like.
Okay.
Maybe it's execution and where it ends up, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
I said that last time, too, with our other film.
But let's talk about something I really like about the movie, some of the tech stuff.
Okay, cool.
How do you
movie magic?
Yeah, dude. Like, I actually enjoyed a lot about how it was shot.
Yeah.
And some of the beautiful city shots.
Yeah.
And they shot the city from a consistent kind of location for most of it.
Right.
Which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the San Gabriel's in there a little bit in one daytime shot. But
yeah.
I liked how they used the modern phone dynamic that we're all living in currently. Really integrated it well into the movie. Like
what do you mean?
Like FaceTiming.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It's actually in the movie a few times and pretty dramatic when it's in the movie.
Yeah.
And I really liked that and thought it was kind of new and unique, you know?
Yeah.
Like going from the FaceTime little screen, like David's perspective, to actually what's going on the other side.
Yeah.
And like holding the phone. Like, I actually really liked that a lot and thought it was really kind of innovative and new. I don't know if I've seen that before. In like in an action sense.
Mm-hmm. It's funny how much of a thing that is in the directing school of thought on like how you shoot text message conversations and stuff like that. And they give like some really bad examples of how people have done it before and some really good examples. This is just, like you said, it's kind of straightforward. They shoot it and it looks like the camera's looking at the phone with the character, which I think is probably the most effective way of doing it. Because there are like a couple of text exchanges too, right?
Yeah, not many.
Movie. Yeah, but they're there. But yeah, for me, I think what I liked most about the cinematography, and it's not so much shots in like specific shots, although I did like a lot of the like B-roll of the city. I just liked how they filmed LA. Like I felt like they did a good job of giving the city the vibe that it has.
Yeah.
Which is like this very urban but multi-ethnic, multicultural melting pot of a city, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And I I mean, I've done a lot of work in LA, and I've hung out a bunch in LA, and you recognize a lot of stuff on camera. It's really kind of cool. If you're familiar with LA at all, they do a really good job of showing you that, yeah, we're in LA right now, without being generic and showing you like, you know, any of the real famous like little skyscrapers or whatever they have. I wouldn't call them skyscrapers, but the office buildings and
the tiny little
and, like,
downtown
the typical,
that actually like this the actual skyline, which is very small
Yeah.
compared to
right.
Yeah, they did a really good job of showing the sprawl.
Yeah,
of
and even
LA.
like some of the bridges and stuff.
Yeah.
The overpasses. It's very much LA in that sense. And I think obviously that comes David Ayer grew up, I guess, in LA. So he's familiar with the area, so he would know how to shoot it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that I really liked that they gave LA. It's almost like the way it's filmed, LA is sort of a character in itself. It kind
Totally.
of enhances the story going on.
Yeah.
And you definitely get that vibe, which is always cool. I love it when they do that.
And they shot it a lot. You know, a lot of the time when you see LA, the skyline, which isn't that insane anyway compared to like Chicago or New York or something. But
Yeah.
when you see it in movies, a lot of time it's looking kind of from the Hollywood Hills or a little bit farther west and kind of looking south
Yeah.
and southwest at the
Mhm.
city. You know, like
Yeah.
from the angle you see it from Hollywood and stuff.
Yeah.
But this movie is based in, you know, east and southeast and south LA, right?
yeah.
So they show the city from the correct angle.
Right.
You know, you see the skyline from like way over near where the 10 hits before it hits the 110, you know, like an angle that a lot of people see on a daily basis. And they showed the mountain range, you know, that really dominates the viewscape when you look at the city from that side of the city. And I really appreciated that. You hear that, Palm Springs? Show the goddamn mountain.
Uh-oh. But yeah, like on that note too, one thing I thought was pretty interesting is usually when you get the LA skyline, you're pretty up close and personal with it.
Yeah, it shows it actually how it really looks, right?
It was very pulled back.
Yeah.
Like you get the skyline at a very distant angle.
Yeah.
Or a very distant perspective, and I thought that was different. You don't see that a whole lot because usually you're going to have that fill the frame.
Yeah, how we normally see it is just like this little bar graph on the horizon. You know, it's not this monstrous, towering, overwhelming city like a New York would be probably.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting choice because it's almost like what they're trying to say is like this movie takes place in LA, but not the LA that you know.
Yeah.
This takes place in LA, like the neighborhood of LA, where the people are. It's kind of
authentic.
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, I don't know how well it represents the gangbanger culture.
Right.
But yeah, it feels very authentic.
Or it at least adds to that gritty notion of like, we're not going to give you the clean, you know, 21st century view of LA. This is like gritty on the streets level perspective of this story.
You know how you said last week that you any image from American Pickle could be a still shot?
Yeah.
And in a magazine? That's
Right.
kind of how maybe not a lot of the FaceTime emotional stuff, but a lot of like you're saying B-roll city shots.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a way better poster than what's on the poster that they have for this type of movie.
Yeah. I think that could have worked. And I get like this is a marketing team trying to sell this film. But yeah, that would have been, I think, a lot more interesting. And less of a gotcha kind of.
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's how it feels. That's really how it feels. That's perfect.
They're like, "Did you watch the film? Sucker."
Yeah. What'd you think of like because there is some special effects action with some of the action in the movie?
Yeah.
And some of the violence. And I liked a lot of it. And I would have liked more. I thought the action was like a little chunky.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't get the clarity of what's going on. It's very like a blurred, bust in the room, guns a-blazing kind of vibe, and not very precise on the level of violence and like the bearing of bullets and things like that. The stuff that I would have liked a lot more.
Here's the thing too, like the scenes we do get are violent.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, they're violent. But let's take a film like Extraction, for example. And I know it's really unfair to compare because this is Sam Hargrave with his stunt choreography in action. But there's like a bluntness to the action in that film, if you understand what I'm saying. Like it's very much like heads like being bashed in against walls and like just blunt blows to the body.
You see the blows.
Yeah. And I feel like if we had a little more of that in here, it would have been a lot more impactful in those scenes for the amount of violence that you get or the amount of action.
Yeah.
It would have given it a lot more weight. But even still, like I thought the scenes you got were pretty violent. Like they were.
Oh yeah, they were violent, but I would have liked it to be clearer. And I try and talk about this without trying to give anything away. When the big conflict happens in the movie, mid-second act.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have liked a little bit more back and forth? It felt to me like it was just way too one-sided.
Okay. Yeah, I could get that.
I would have liked a little bit more struggle.
Yeah. No, I think I understand what you're saying.
I don't think that gives anything away.
Yeah,
but,
I think I understand what you were saying.
And the whole time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked a lot more tit for tat. The stuff that you didn't like in American Pickle, essentially. You get what I'm saying? Like the back and forth of conflict.
Yeah.
Like I would have liked a little bit of that in this.
Okay.
And you didn't really get any.
I get what you're saying. No, I kind of see that too. I see that too. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the budget was of this film, but for I think what they had, it was as good as you're gonna get. Especially considering this, I don't think film was. I don't know if it was meant to have a theatrical release. Maybe it was, but
who knows? You know.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was meant to be straight to streaming. I thought what we got in terms of the artistry, like the filmmaking, I felt was quality.
I thought it was the strongest. That and Shia's acting.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought were the strongest.
Well, I think the acting across the board.
Strongest elements of the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about an element that I did not really give a shit about in this film, which was score.
Yeah, it kind of tried to walk the line between dramatic, orchestral, and what was the word you used? Diegetic?
Yeah. There's a lot of,
it tried to walk a line between those two, and it fell on its nuts.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the few films for me where I think I enjoyed the popular / diegetic music more than any of the score.
Oh, me too, all the way.
Because it gives it an authentic element if you're going to tell this story about gangsters in, suburban LA. Is that the right term, suburban? Is this still urban?
That's urban, bro. You don't get suburban until you pass the 15 going
there
east.
You go. Okay. So yeah,
that's fucking city.
Yeah, I felt like that vibe, it matched so well with what they were doing. So yeah, for me it was a bit opposite of what I usually say. Is I usually enjoy like your run of the mill orchestral instrumental score, but in this case I really enjoyed the popular kind of diegetic music going on. It was really well suited for what was on screen.
It would have been way more impactful as a whole if there was none of the orchestral on the super dramatic stuff and you had popular music going.
Yeah.
During those really, really heavy emotional scenes.
Yeah, it was just really kind of forgetful for me. It was it didn't add any impact for me, unfortunately.
No, it added to the cheese.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be
predictable arc story.
Yeah. Don't mean to totally dismiss whoever the composer was for this film, but for me it was kind of
I never really
for me.
Yeah, I never really feel like the musicians that made the score did a bad job. For me it's more of just that's what makes a movie cheesy, way cheesier to me, is the cheesy orchestral score.
Yeah.
that is meant to enhance the emotional vibe of what's going on screen. I would much rather have diegetic music.
I getcha.
Or just popular music of the time that the movie's taking place in.
Right. Something like that, like, underlines the vibe going on, which all that music did. So, yeah.
It does, and there's a lot of that in the movie, and all that's nice.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's very effective. Well, yeah, I think we've reached a good point where we can start to wrap up here with our love-hates.
All right.
All right, so what do you got?
I loved the movie visually. It was extremely pretty to watch. It looked hot, right? It looked hot in L.A. as how it looks.
Yeah.
It doesn't show this, like, darkened blue sky. They showed the smog and, like, the yellow rather than the blue sky.
Yeah, they gave you L.A. for what it is.
Yeah, and I really like that.
Right.
And just generally how the movie was shot all the way around, I enjoyed a ton.
Cool.
And what I hated about the movie is it gave me blue balls with Shia's character.
Oh, Shia.
Yeah.
Not so much Shia, but
no, not him. Not in terms of like him
David
letting
Ayer.
me down.
Yeah.
Is him like the way his character was written on the page.
Yep.
Let me down.
Yeah.
I'm okay with how his character is resolved.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have liked a little more.
I get you.
You know?
Okay, I was expecting you to say a little more.
No, just a little more open-ended,
more.
ambiguous.
Yeah.
You know, just a little more, please.
All right.
More than what's in the trailer, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think for me, what I loved most about this film were the performances. I thought that everyone that was on screen seemed to give really, really compelling performances, I guess. And it seemed like they put in the effort and the work to sell an image, I guess, that David Ayer was going for. So I appreciated the performances. And like you said, Shia is always going to bring it, and I'll watch anything the dude's in for the most part, unless it involves him, like, chopping off a toe or something to get a reaction. But
I'll watch that.
Actually, I probably would watch that. But yeah, Shia, shout out.
He's the man, dude. I can't wait.
Yeah.
He's prolific, man. This is 3 movies this year. The first 2 he did were total bangers.
Yeah.
And this one he's really good in.
Yeah, no, he's good. And I guess what I hated is, I don't know, man. Hate is such a strong word. But David Ayer, like, as a director, the best way to put this for me, I think, is, like, we talked about this. I'm not the biggest Quentin Tarantino fan. You know this.
Boo.
And I'm definitely the odd one out because so many people love his films.
I don't love all of them. I'm quite the fan, but I don't love all of them.
And I think the reason why I'm not 100% into Quentin Tarantino is because it's his style. Like, he has a style, and that's what people love about him, and that's what I just don't... I don't gravitate towards his style of filmmaking. Which is why I think I enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood so much, is because he seemed to get away from that a little bit. Which is why I think some people, that movie was kind of divisive for people. And I feel like the same way with David Ayer. He has a style that he brings in a lot of his films. And I saw that in Fury, I saw it in Suicide Squad, and I got more of it in this film. And there's just something about the way he has this fascination with ultra masculine qualities in all of his characters almost. And it gets kind of boring for me. And I expected it in this film, and I got it. So I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know if that's just because.
No, I'm looking at every one of his posters, and it's like every poster is like a ripped dude or dudes holding guns, guys with, uniforms and tattoos.
He's very,
I know
like,
what you're saying,
heavy
man.
metal, like, gangster, and he brings that to everything. And for me, it's like, it just gets boring after a while. And if you want to watch a superhero film like that, then watch Suicide Squad. It's very much like The Tax Collector meets Harley Quinn and the Joker. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that says more about him as a director or if it says just more about me and my tastes.
Yeah, you know, some people
Maybe
don't
a little
like
bit of
some
both.
shit. I don't
Yeah.
like heartfelt romantic comedies. You know, that's fine. You don't have to feel apologetic about not liking a genre. You know.
I love me a romantic comedy though.
See, exactly. It's fine. You can dislike whatever you want, man.
Give me the Notebook. So I don't know. But having said that, I think there are weaknesses in this story in terms of where it starts out, what they try to develop, and where it ends up. I think there are holes that you can place into the logic of some of these characters and their way of thinking. And without getting into spoilers, I think we did the best we could without trying to get into that a little bit without giving anything away.
See, I don't think there's holes in it. I think it's way too just perfectly straight blueprint. You know,
okay.
it's a perfectly straight blueprint movie where all of the, you know, characters are inserted exactly where they're supposed to be and all of their arcs are exactly how they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about it. It's just too freaking straight down the line.
I getcha. Yeah, it was a little redundant for me, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And and it's not just this, a lot of gangster movies have that. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It takes like a really innovative way of storytelling to tell the same story
Sure.
with the same kind of genre differently, and this movie isn't that at all. And that's where I would say you don't like Quentin's movies. That's where I really like him, because he tries to tell stories that have these way deeper historical messages.
Yeah.
But he knows it's fiction, so he's not afraid to completely flip history on its head.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoy about his two favorite movies that I've done, so if I can come to his defense a bit.
Yeah, sure. And like I said, I think it has less to do with Quentin and more to do with about just my taste.
All right.
Because the guy can direct a film, like, no question.
Yeah.
So,
but like I said, I don't
question.
like all of them, you know?
Yeah. But I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
See, I didn't love it, but I didn't dislike it either.
Sure.
But it was like, I bet it probably has a ton of rewatch value because of how long it was.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is the lead up. Here's our popping of our balloon. What are you gonna score this film on your bongo meter?
So I might surprise you a bit here, because the only thing I really think fell short on the movie was one aspect, or maybe two. You know, it's wrapped in. The over dramatic and the story was just way too on the nose for me. And every other aspect I really enjoyed.
Gotcha.
You know, the acting was all really good. The action, for what it was, as much as you got, was pretty good. There were some cool slow-mo scenes with guns firing and stuff. So I'm going to give it a 3. I'm giving it 3 bong loads.
Okay.
You know, because it's pretty technically and acting-wise and casting-wise and visually, I really enjoyed it.
Sure.
But it was the story and how straight down the line it was. That really fell short, and I didn't get like a big emotional connection or big emotional payoff because I knew exactly where it was going the whole time.
Right.
So yeah, 3 bong loads officially.
All right, gotcha. I'm gonna do a little bit less on mine, and I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Like I said, I'm familiar with David Ayer's style, and I predicted what this movie was gonna be, and I went in with low expectations, and he met my low expectations. So for that, at least he met my expectations. So I'll give him the 2.5 for that. Like you said, I have no problems with the acting, and I have no problems with the way it was technically made from an artistic standpoint. It's just his taste in character and the arc he gives these characters. It's just very underwhelming. And I didn't get any fulfillment out of those stories, personally.
Yeah.
And I know this film is like, look at the poster. It's not a film you go into wanting any kind of fulfillment in terms of a deep character story. But you can still have your cake and eat it too at times, I think. And some directors are able to pull that off, and I didn't get it in this one.
Yeah, I could live pretty easily without getting a big emotional thing if I could have just got a bit more action and violence payoff.
Yeah.
From Shia's character.
Yeah, I get you. I wanted a little bit more depth to the characters.
Okay.
So yeah, 2.5. It wasn't my favorite, and it's not a genre I usually go to. But like I said, the performances were great. On the technical side of things, with the filmmaking, I thought it was fine. There was nothing I can really point to say this guy doesn't know how to direct a movie. But yeah, maybe he could have beefed up the writing a little bit more, I think.
Just take it to the next level, man.
Yeah.
And that's it. Just take it up a notch in terms of the plot.
Yeah.
Like it can still follow the main arc that it's going on, but just give a little more depth to the complexity.
Sure.
Because it's so it's like a conspiracy theorist dot board.
Yeah.
But it only goes in 3 lines and then stops.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't get that far across the whole corkboard.
Gotcha.
It only gets one bubble away from the main bubble of the story.
Yeah.
And it could go 2 or 3, especially on the cartel side.
Sure.
You could add a few scenes that just add tons of complexity to what's actually happening in LA, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
But hey, before we wrap this up, we'll stick around after we wrap up, because I want to ask you a spoiler question about the movie.
Oh, sure. All right. We'll do that. And then, before we bounce, I guess more important than our score, do you recommend this film?
Renting, yes. Buying, no. If you want to rent it, you're into gangster movies, it will scratch that itch for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
If you like LA-based gangster movies, which this really falls right into that genre, because there's a ton of LA-based gangster movies that I actually like quite a lot.
Sure. A
lot of older movies, but it falls right into that genre. So if you're into that, it's definitely worth renting it. I don't know about buying it.
I'd have to agree. I agree wholeheartedly. All right, well, that's been episode 34 of The Buff and the Blazer. We just discussed David Ayer's The Tax Collector, and El Toddo and I both gave it a recommend. If you're going to rent it, maybe not so much a buy. Yeah, the performances are good. It's well made in terms of the artistry and the tech side of things, and if you like the genre, like we said, I think you can get something out of this movie. But that's all we have, people. Until next week on our Sunday, we'll see you on episode 35.
Peace, people. All right, spoiler part of the episode.
Okay.
Bonus footage.
Yeah.
All right, so at the end of the movie, when Wizard and David or Bobby Soto are talking on the phone, does it imply that he ordered that whole thing to test his son?
That's the vibe I got.
Because that's fucking ridiculous.
I know. That was my number one problem.
That's fucking ridiculous.
I know.
That's what it implied, and I kind of left it open in my head, maybe I misunderstood that.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got.
Because that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and then my biggest problem with it was that after that whole arc that he goes on, he lost his wife, and he almost lost his kids. And they're all that he has left. And at the end, his dad is like, "You're taking over the empire now." And he seems like he's cool with it. He's like, "All right, I'm the new wizard." And then it fades out. And I'm like, really? Your character just spent all that time going through all this shit, and you finally reach a point where you realize you want out. And then you get a call from your dad, and he's like, "That was all a test and you passed." And he's like, "All right, cool. I'm back in." Only I'm on top. You see what I'm saying? It's so circular.
Yeah.
When that happened, I was like, really? I said that out loud to myself.
Yeah,
and that's really?
Yeah, that's the fucking message, right? Of how ruthless the gangster world is.
Yeah.
And it's just too on the nose, man.
For sure.
All right.
And you interpret it as too on the nose, and I interpret it as just a circle that's boring and means nothing. I wasted an hour and a half of my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if you were going to do that, you might as well have just killed his kids, because at least at that point he'd have nothing to live for. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude.
Like, at least at that point he'd have a good reason to be like, all right, fuck it, I lost everything. I'll just become the crime lord now.
Yeah.
That was my number one problem with the whole plot.
Yeah. Fuck, I like left it open in my head. Like I almost convinced myself that it didn't end that way.
Yeah.
And I was like,
no, I'm pretty sure it ended that way.
I know it did. I know it did. But I was like
the
trying.
movie cuts with him looking at the camera like, mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like I tried to think in my head like, no, he's just going to go hang with the Bloods for the rest of his life and raise his kids,
no.
you know? And
No.
fuck. I like really tried to like, come on, just add the tiniest bit of twist, you know?
Yeah. That's what I was expecting him to do. I was expecting him to be like, no, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
And you can hunt me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And since we're on bonus time and we're airing grievances,
Yeah.
how the hell are they going to have him not throw Conejo into an arm bar and break his arm? Like when they're having their struggle in the bathroom.
Yeah.
What the fuck? It's like you show the guy.
That was super fucking cheesy,
you
too.
You show
the
guy training fucking jujitsu.
Yeah. I knew that was going to happen, too.
Already injured. He's already been shot once in the leg.
Yeah.
It's like, fucking use your jujitsu and fucking, you know, break his arm. And then you can pick up the sink and smash it on his head. It's like, why do you have to fucking just have this, like, really anticlimactic reversal from a full mount, and then all of a sudden he's got a fucking sink in his hand and he's smashing Conejo.
It's like the two willy-nilly guys fighting each other.
Yeah, it's almost like he didn't even use his jujitsu. Conejo just slipped and he got the upper hand all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like that's what I mean in terms of like the action was really clunky and not detailed at all.
Yeah.
Whereas in Extraction you see every little move that happens.
Yeah. No, I get you. Are we going to keep this? We'll just put a spoiler warning in the beginning of it?
We gave
For
the
those who wanna
warning,
stick
bro.
around? All right, cool. Yeah,
we gave the warning at the end of the episode.
All right.
If
Bonus.
you venture into it.
There we go.
There you go.
Cool. All right, well, now we can bounce.
All right, dude.
I think we hit our grievances pretty much on point there.
Maybe this is a good little exercise at the end of each episode. Just fucking blast it on out there.
I like it. Let's keep it. Let's keep her. Let's keep him.
See you later, people.
All right.